would ABC, Disney, the mouse, who has more money than God, settle with Donald Trump?
I honestly don't know.
You know, I've asked, why would ABC? But people ask me all the time, why is the media so mamsy-pamsy? And there are two explanations. One is they are convinced that if they would just move a little bit to the right, all those MAGA readers out there, now you'll notice the contradiction in terms, MAGA readers, would pick up the Washington Post and they would have more readers. What is the logical fallacy here? Yes, reader. And there is nothing that the Washington Post could possibly do that would have those people take out a subscription. But they're convinced they're in there someplace.
Jennifer Rubin and George Conway are big mad and they're losing, and you can tell, and they just can't stop. But they're in their little cocoon here trying to insinuate that MAGA voters, you know, they can't read. That's just a given. Meanwhile, Donald Trump is moving at the fastest pace that I think we've ever seen government work for the American people. And I have to assume that a lot of that has to do with the fact that they came in on day one, on minute one, prepared to get the business of the American people done and to do what they said in the campaign that they would do. And I think a lot of that had to do with their work with the America First Policy Institute. We're going to speak with their senior advisor for communications now, Hogan Gidley, back with us once again. Hogan, welcome back to the show. I know that it's always nice to listen to Jennifer Rubin and George Conway when they're losing so much.
Well, she's been losing now for quite some time, the fake conservative that she is, and I've known her for a long time. And even way back in 2016, 2012, she was one of those that a lot of people went to give stories to, only to realize she was really in the tank for Romney. So that kind of tells you where her conservatism comes from, that wing of the party, which, of course, is no more, or at the very least, on life support. So the media is always confused and perplexed by Donald Trump, and it's obvious as to why. Because Donald Trump actually moves to get things done and accomplished for the American people. What they're used to is government gridlock. What they're used to is wasteful spending, misused, mismanaged money, problems overseas at our borders that they can't figure out, but yet somehow they're still considered experts. Or if they do wade into those affairs, they always end up blowing up in their faces. This is the problem with that type of thinking and that type of ideology. It never garners a solution. And so you see why it benefits them to keep things in chaos. Because if they solve it, they're out of a job. Yeah. That's the bottom line. Trump understands, I got 4 years and I'll be out of a job, so I'm going to get things done.
Well, what has he done in 4 weeks? My goodness. How much of him going into and being able to execute in these first 4 weeks, the executive orders? I remember talking to you, Hogan, years ago when Joe Biden was the president, and you were talking about what was being done in the background. And at the time, it was for whomever that next Republican is that comes into the office, that we are prepared to get the business of the people done. Talk to me about what Donald Trump has been able to do so far and compare that to the first time around for him.
Oh, it is leaps and bounds different, as you can tell. Look, Donald Trump was a businessman. He was a billionaire, or is a billionaire, I guess, but was a businessman. He understood business. He wasn't ever a governor. He wasn't ever a mayor. He wasn't a senator, anything of that sort. And so, people always say, run the government like a business. Well, it's not a business. Now, can you do things to make it more efficient, like, business practices, good business practices? Sure. But it's not that way because of the bureaucracy, because of the layers and layers that you have to go through to make certain decisions. Donald Trump learned from the first time. So he's not only, wiser to the ways of Washington, he also has discernment and knowledge of how government works. And look, it's trite, but it's true. Hindsight is 20/20. And if we all had the chance to go back and redo something we had done in the past, even if we succeeded, we'd do even better, far better than we did before. So that's what Donald Trump did. He was able to succeed with all the political winds against him, with all the press against him, in the face of Russia collusion, hoaxes, and lies, all types of lawfare, going after his family, his businesses, his colleagues, his coworkers, all of this stuff. He still was able to succeed. Now he comes in with the wind at his back and a vast majority of the American people supporting him in a landslide, historic victory. He's got to get stuff done for them. And right now, polling shows the American people are excited about where this country is headed because it's heading back to success in such a rapid fashion. And that's all because of Donald Trump and his preparedness while he was out of office, getting ready for this day. And you hear all the time politicians say, on day one, I'm going to do this, or I promise on day one, I'm going to get to work. This guy did it, and he did it so quickly that the media had been caught flat-footed. The Democrats don't have anything else to talk about except going after Elon Musk. They're in disarray, and it's because they had the keys to the castle for 4 years and did nothing but make our lives worse.
It's so true. And it's so fun to be on this side of it. It's so fun to cover this news.
It really is.
The news cycle.
And real quick, Annie, I wanted him to win, obviously, to change the policy. What I really wanted, though, was to see the meltdown. And boy, have I not been surprised.
That is so true.
I've not been disappointed at all by the media and the Democrats' meltdown. It's been epic.
And you've definitely you've paid the time and paid the dues in order to enjoy that a little bit. I think many of us feel that way. That's kind of, having talked to you for 4 years and even before that, when Trump was president the first time and you were working with the administration then Biden gets in and just innovatively figuring out ways to destroy this country. And meanwhile, Donald Trump is somewhere, probably in Mar-a-Lago, thinking about what he would do if he were to get back in there. The America First Policy Institute is taking that, what would we do, and putting it on paper so that if we had the opportunity to do it, it would be ready to go. When you were watching all of this come together in the background, the America First Policy Institute and your conversations with people who might be in the position to implement it, is this how you saw it going? Is it better than you anticipated? How did you expect it, and what's the material?
It's better. It's way better. I don't think anyone was really prepared for the rapidity at which Donald Trump would move, given all of the documentation, the executive orders, the laws, the rules that are right in front of him today. They're at his fingertips now. They weren't that way the first time. A lot of Republicans fought against him. Don't forget, it was Paul Ryan, who was the Speaker of the House at the time, who literally fought against us getting funding for the border. He refused a border wall. Like this intra-party politics was way worse then because no one knew what to make of Donald Trump. He was outside the box. He was different. And so they were so confused at the way he operated. Now they were with him for 4 years. They understand. And so what they want to do now is execute. And we have a speaker like Mike Johnson, for example, and in full disclosure, I do some work with him, but he's been pretty open about the fact Donald Trump calls the plays and we run them.
Yeah.
And that's happened to this point. And so I expect it to continue.
Do you feel like there are areas in the Republican Party right now? I mean, there's maybe some contrary voices from time to time. Are any of these voices, are there any people right now in the Republican Party in Congress or whatever that are actively working against the America First plan?
I don't know if they're actively working against it. You saw the other day Mitch McConnell voted against one of the nominees that Trump had. So, look, I don't know anyone's working against it. However, I do think there are some folks there who while publicly may be professing some support, behind the scenes may not be all in. The fact is, this has been such a jarring whiplash effect for so many because after Donald Trump won in 2016, and loses or isn't in the White House, I guess, in 2020, the question then becomes, where's the party go? And when you lose an election, that's always the ask. What are we doing? Who's the leader of the party? And when Trump decides to run, a lot of people on the Republican side were confused by that, concerned by that. And then you saw the mugshot. Then you saw the indictments. Then you saw the Mar-a-Lago raid. They tried to kill him. All of the things that happened that were historic in nature that would kill anybody else politically. Anybody. He doesn't just come back. He roars back into our lives with a massive landslide victory. They changed candidates like weeks before the election because they thought they could get a better shot with Kamala. I mean, they threw everything at this man. He still succeeded. And so getting into office, the whole thing gets the Republican Party more energized, more understanding of the electorate. We listened to them and understood they cared about the price of gas and groceries. They wanted a closed southern border, a reduction in even legal immigration. They didn't want foreign wars and the industrial complex, the military industrial complex getting, being able to wage war all over the world. They didn't want that. And a lot of politicians on our side, to their credit, stood up and went, okay, we hear you. This is where the party's going, thanks to Donald Trump. We're going to embrace it instead of fight against it like we did the first time.
Oh, and it's been magnificent. We know you got to run, and we appreciate your time. Real quick before we let you go, you prepared us for day one. We're going to be drinking from a fire hose because Donald Trump is going to get so much done so quickly. We're a month into this about right now. Does that pace continue?
Yeah, look, I want to say it slows down at some point just by law of averages, and you got to take a breath. But also understand Donald Trump can't run for re-election. So what you expect is he's going to push as hard as he can, as long as he can, until the political realities exist that he won't have any more victories in Congress, for example, because they'll be running for re-election. But I was on a panel recently on television where they were talking about Donald Trump and how they were exhausted after the first couple of weeks. And I said, well, you guys had you basically had a nap for 4 years. Joe Biden didn't do anything.
Yeah.
I mean, he was calling lids, which means, you kind of end the thing at noon, for heaven's sake. So this guy's running hard. He's doing the right things, and he's going to do it for the American people as long as he possibly can. And I promise you, even when Congress is kind of in that phase where they're not going to talk to him anymore because they got to run for election, I guarantee you he's still going to be doing stuff.
Well, we're going to be watching, and thank you for your time to come on with us today and talk to us about it. And that little stroll down recent memory lane, we'll do that anytime. we'll go over the election anytime with you. Hogan, thank you for being with us today.
Thanks so much.
Take
Talk
care.
soon.
Bye-bye. Hogan Gidley, America First Policy Institute Senior Advisor for Communications.